The medical bay of the Galactic Research Station Omega-7 hummed with the quiet efficiency of advanced alien technology. Dr. Zarath, a seasoned Valerian nurse with pale blue skin and elongated limbs, had seen thousands of species pass through these sterile corridors over her 30-year career. Her four eyes, adapted for detecting the slightest changes in biological systems, had witnessed everything from silicon-based crystallites to the gaseous nebula dwellers. Today felt different. The latest arrival was a human, a species that had only recently joined the galactic community after their planet was discovered by a routine exploration vessel. The humans had caused quite a stir among the scientific community. Their homeworld, Earth, was classified as a death world by galactic standards, with extreme weather patterns, dangerous predators, and gravity levels that would crush most civilized species. Commander Jake Morrison lay unconscious on the bioscanner, his muscular frame taking up most of the examination table. He had been found drifting in a damaged escape pod after what appeared to be a pirate attack on a human cargo vessel. Standard protocol required a full biological scan of any new species, especially one from such a hostile environment. Zarath activated the quantum bioscanner, a device capable of analyzing every cell, every genetic marker, every biological process down to the molecular level. She had performed this procedure countless times, her movements precise and professional. The scanner's blue light began its systematic sweep across the human's body, collecting data that would be transmitted to the Galactic Medical Database. At first, everything seemed normal. The readings showed elevated bone density, which was expected given Earth's high gravity. His muscle mass was impressive, far beyond what most species could naturally develop. But then the scanner reached his cardiovascular system, and something extraordinary appeared on her screens. Zarath's primary eyes widened as she stared at the readings. The human's heart was beating at what should have been a lethal pace, yet his vitals indicated perfect health. His blood pressure readings were completely outside normal parameters for any known species. Yet his organs showed no signs of stress or damage. But it was when the scanner analyzed his cellular structure that Zarath felt her pale blue skin begin to flush a deep crimson. Her people's physiology caused this color change during moments of extreme shock or excitement, and what she was seeing defied everything she knew about biology. The human's cells were regenerating at an impossible rate. Microscopic damage from radiation exposure, typical after space travel, was healing in real time. His immune system wasn't just fighting off foreign pathogens. It was actively hunting them down with what could only be described as aggressive efficiency. Most shocking of all, his neural activity showed patterns that suggested his brain was operating at nearly 20% capacity higher than the theoretical maximum for carbon-based life forms. Other medical staff in the bay began to notice Zarath's unusual coloration. Her assistant, a young Aquan named Flux, approached with concern. The Aquans, being semi-telepathic, could sense emotional disturbances from considerable distances. "Dr. Zarath, your bio readings are showing extreme stress. Should I call for backup medical assistance?" Flux's voice carried the melodic quality typical of his water-dwelling species. Zarath quickly shut down the scanner's public display, routing all data to her private terminal. Whatever she had discovered about this human, it was too dangerous to let others see without proper analysis. The implications of what she was witnessing could change everything the galaxy understood about biological limits and evolution. "I need to run additional scans," she announced to the medical bay, her voice carefully controlled despite her racing pulse. "Private examination protocols. Clear the bay immediately." The other staff members exchanged glances but complied without question. Zarath's reputation as one of the station's most competent medical professionals meant her requests were rarely questioned. As the last technician exited the sealed medical chamber, she turned back to the unconscious human. Jake Morrison remained still, his breathing steady and deep. The scanner had revealed that even unconscious, his body was performing feats that should have been impossible. His metabolism was processing nutrients at efficiency levels that made the most advanced synthetic beings look primitive. His bone structure showed adaptive, changes that suggested his skeleton could withstand impacts that would pulverize most known materials. Zarath realized she was looking at a member of a species that had evolved not just to survive on a death world, but to thrive in conditions that would destroy almost any other form of life. The humans weren't just another alien species joining the galactic community. They were something entirely different, something that challenged fundamental assumptions about the limits of biological evolution. As she prepared for the private examination, Zarath couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery would change everything. The galaxy had rules, biological laws that governed what was possible and what was not. This human seemed to break those rules simply by existing. She activated the privacy shields around the medical bay and began preparing for the most important examination of her career. Whatever secrets this human's biology held, she needed to understand them before anyone else discovered what she had found. The implications were staggering and possibly dangerous. The human stirred slightly, his unconscious mind perhaps sensing the intense scrutiny. Zarath watched his vital signs spike momentarily before settling back to what she was beginning to realize was his species' version of normal. She had a feeling that when Commander Morrison woke up, the galaxy would never be the same. Time was running out. Soon, other medical staff would return, and she would have to share her findings with the station's command structure. But first, she needed to understand exactly what kind of being she was dealing with, and more importantly, what it meant for the future of galactic civilization. The privacy shield hummed softly as Zarath began her detailed examination of the human's biological systems. With the medical bay sealed and all external monitoring disabled, she could work without fear of immediate discovery. Her crimson flush had deepened as she realized the magnitude of what she was uncovering. The advanced bioscanner revealed layers of adaptation that seemed impossible. Jake Morrison's skeletal system wasn't just dense. It was actively responding to stress in real time. When she applied pressure to test bone strength, microscopic changes occurred to reinforce the stressed areas. His bones were literally evolving during the examination. His muscular system was even more remarkable. The scanner showed muscle fibers that could contract with force levels approaching those of hydraulic systems. Yet they remained flexible and responsive, capable of precise movements as well as explosive power. The protein structures were unlike anything in the galactic medical database, but it was his circulatory system that truly amazed her. The human's blood carried oxygen at efficiency levels that made atmospheric breathing almost optional. His red blood cells were so densely packed with hemoglobin that his blood appeared almost black under the scanner. More incredibly, his circulatory system included backup pathways that could reroute blood flow around damaged areas automatically. Zarath documented everything, her 4 eyes working independently to monitor multiple readouts simultaneously. The human's nervous system showed the most startling adaptations. His brain wasn't just operating at higher capacity, it was using neural pathways that didn't exist in any known species. Entire sections of his cerebral cortex were dedicated to functions that other species required cybernetic implants to achieve. When she scanned his sensory organs, the results made her step back in shock. The human's eyes could detect light spectrums far beyond normal ranges. His hearing extended into frequencies that most species used for sonar. His sense of smell was so acute that he could probably track individual scents across vast distances. The scanner's analysis of his digestive system revealed another impossibility. The human could process nearly any organic material as food. His stomach acid was strong enough to dissolve metals, yet his digestive tract showed no signs of damage. His liver was functioning like a biological chemical plant, neutralizing toxins that would kill most life forms instantly. Most disturbing of all was his immune system. It wasn't just fighting off diseases. It was learning from every pathogen it encountered and building permanent defenses. The scanner showed antibody structures that could adapt to new threats in real time. This human was essentially immune to biological warfare. As Zarath continued her examination, Jake Morrison began to stir. His unconscious state was ending naturally, which gave her the opportunity to observe his awakening process. Even emerging from unconsciousness, his body displayed impossible efficiency. His heart rate and breathing adjusted perfectly to consciousness without the usual transitional period most species experienced. His eyes opened suddenly, focusing immediately on her face with an alertness that should have been impossible for someone just regaining consciousness. Those eyes held an intelligence that seemed to process and catalog everything they saw in seconds. "Where am I?" Jake's voice was calm despite his situation, another sign of his species' remarkable adaptability. Most beings would have been disoriented and panicked upon waking in an alien medical facility. You're safe, Zareth replied, her medical training overriding her shock at his impossible biology. You're aboard Galactic Research Station Omega-7. I'm Dr. Zarath. You were found in a damaged escape pod. Jake's eyes moved quickly around the medical bay, taking in details that most species wouldn't even notice. The scanner showed his brain processing visual information at rates that strained the equipment's ability to monitor. The cargo ship, Jake said, his memory returning with perfect clarity. Pirates attacked us near the Rigel system. The crew managed to get me to an escape pod before the ship was destroyed. His voice carried genuine sadness for his lost crewmates, but also a cold anger that made Zareth unconsciously step back. I need to ask you some questions, she said, trying to maintain professional composure while her worldview crumbled around her. Standard medical protocol for new species requires extensive biological analysis. Jake sat up on the examination table with fluid motion that demonstrated perfect balance and spatial awareness. The scanner registered muscle coordination that surpassed the finest athletes of any known species. What did your scans tell you? He asked, his eyes meeting hers with unsettling directness. There was something in his gaze that suggested he already knew what she had discovered. Zareth hesitated. How could she explain that his very existence challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about biological limits? How could she tell him that his species represented a level of evolutionary achievement that most civilizations considered theoretically impossible? Your biology is unique, she said carefully. Your homeworld's extreme conditions have produced adaptations that are unprecedented in galactic records. Jake's expression didn't change, but the scanner detected subtle shifts in his physiology. His heart rate increased slightly, his muscle tension rose, and his brain activity spiked. He was preparing for potential conflict with the calm efficiency of a predator. How unique? He asked. And Zareth realized that this human understood the implications of what she had discovered. He knew that his species was different, perhaps even dangerous by galactic standards. You're unlike anything we've encountered, she admitted. Your physical capabilities exceed theoretical maximums for carbon-based life. Your adaptability appears to be limitless. Your species has evolved beyond what we thought was possible. Jake nodded slowly, as if confirming something he had long suspected. And that scares you. It wasn't a question. Somehow this human could read her emotional state, despite never having encountered her species before. The scanner confirmed that he was interpreting microscopic changes in her posture, coloration, and breathing patterns to understand her feelings. Should it? Zareth asked, genuinely curious about his perspective. Jake considered her question for a long moment, his impossible mind processing factors she couldn't even imagine. When he finally spoke, his words carried a weight that suggested they came from deep racial memory. My species learned long ago that being different often means being feared, and fear leads to conflict. The implications of his statement hit Zareth like a physical blow. If humans were this advanced individually, what were they capable of collectively? What kind of civilization could a species of super beings create? And more importantly, what would happen when the rest of the galaxy discovered what humanity really was? Jake Morrison stood from the examination table with a grace that defied his muscular build. Zareth watched in fascination as the scanner continued to monitor his movements, revealing the perfect coordination between his nervous system and muscular structure. Every motion was optimized for maximum efficiency and minimum energy expenditure. Dr. Zareth, Jake said, his tone becoming more serious, I need you to understand something about my species before you make any reports to your superiors. The Valerian nurse felt her skin flush deeper crimson. The human's ability to read her intentions was unsettling. How had he known she was planning to contact the station command immediately after their conversation? Humans don't just survive on Earth, Jake continued, moving slowly around the medical bay while his eyes cataloged every piece of equipment, every exit, every potential weapon. We thrived there because we had to. Our planet didn't just challenge us. It tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. Zareth accessed her knowledge database about Earth through her neural implant. The file was marked with multiple danger warnings. Average surface temperature variations that would shatter most species' biology. Atmospheric pressure that would crush delicate life forms. Gravity levels that made movement impossible for many galactic citizens. Weather patterns that included hurricanes, tornadoes, and lightning strikes that could vaporize most known materials. The dinosaurs ruled our world for over 160 million years, Jake said, noting her distraction as she accessed the database. creatures so large and powerful that they seemed unstoppable. Then an asteroid impact created a mass extinction event that wiped them out. But our ancestors survived. Small mammals that adapted, evolved, and eventually inherited the Earth. The scanner showed Jake's brain activity spiking as he accessed what appeared to be genetic memory. His species retained information at the cellular level, passing down survival knowledge through generations in ways that made conventional education seem primitive. We faced ice ages that locked our planet in frozen death for thousands of years. We survived volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun and made the air toxic. We endured plagues that killed millions, wars that devastated continents, and natural disasters that reshaped our entire world. And through it all, we adapted. Zareth realized she was witnessing something unprecedented. This human wasn't just describing his species' history. He was explaining why they had become what they were. Every impossible adaptation she had discovered was the result of surviving challenges that would have wiped out entire galactic civilizations. But adaptation wasn't enough, Jake continued, his voice carrying the weight of racial memory. We had to become something more than just survivors. We had to become apex predators on a planet full of apex predators. We developed intelligence not just to think, but to hunt, to strategize, to overcome anything that threatened us. The scanner registered changes in Jake's physiology as he spoke. His muscle density increased slightly, his reflexes sharpened, and his sensory acuity heightened. He was unconsciously preparing for combat while simply discussing his species' evolution. Every human child learns to face fear from the moment they can walk, Jake said, his eyes meeting Zareth's with an intensity that made her step back. We're taught that everything in our environment is potentially deadly, but that with intelligence, courage, and determination, any threat can be overcome. We don't just fight for survival. We fight to win. Zareth's neural implant began processing the implications of what she was learning. Humanity hadn't just survived on a death world. They had conquered it. They had become the dominant species on a planet that would kill most galactic citizens within hours of exposure. Your scans showed you our physical capabilities, Jake said, apparently reading her thoughts through microscopic changes in her expression. But they didn't show you the most dangerous thing about humans. What's that? Zareth asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. We never give up, Jake replied simply. Failure isn't an end state for humans. It's just information we use to try again. We've turned stubbornness into a survival trait. When faced with impossible odds, we don't calculate the probability of success. We just keep fighting until we find a way to win. The scanner confirmed that Jake's brain chemistry was unlike anything in galactic records. His neural patterns showed the ability to suppress fear, ignore pain, and maintain logical thinking under extreme stress. His species had essentially evolved beyond the psychological limitations that prevented other life forms from reaching their full potential. Dr. Zareth, Jake said, his voice becoming urgent, before you report your findings, you need to know that humans have been monitoring galactic communications since we were discovered. We know that several species consider us a potential threat. We know that some governments are already discussing containment protocols. Zareth felt her secondary heart skip a beat. If humans had been intercepting classified galactic communications, their technological capabilities were far beyond what anyone had estimated. They weren't just biologically superior, they were technologically advanced enough to penetrate the galaxy's most secure networks. We don't want conflict, Jake continued, but we won't accept subjugation. If the galactic community tries to treat us as a threat to be contained rather than equals to be welcomed, you'll discover exactly how dangerous a species of survivors can be. The implications hit Zareth like a cosmic storm. Humanity had been quietly observing and analyzing galactic civilization while presenting themselves as a newly discovered species. They knew about the debates regarding their potential danger, the secret meetings discussing their capabilities, and the growing fear among some species about what humans might become. What do you want from me? Zareth asked, realizing that this conversation was far more significant than a routine medical examination. Jake's expression softened slightly, showing the human capacity for empathy that the scanner had registered alongside their predatory instincts. Help us prove that we can be trusted partners rather than feared enemies. Your report will be the first official biological assessment of humanity. It will influence how the galaxy sees us for generations to come. But if I misrepresent your capabilities, don't, Jake interrupted, Tell them exactly what you found, but also tell them that we chose to share this information with you rather than hiding it. Tell them that we're offering transparency and cooperation instead of deception and aggression. Zarath realized she was facing the most important decision of her career. The data she had collected could cause panic throughout the galaxy, or it could open the door to a new era of cooperation with a species unlike any other. The choice was hers, but the consequences would affect billions of lives across thousands of worlds. The scanner continued to monitor Jake's biology, confirming that everything he had told her was true. Humans were indeed the apex survivors of the universe, evolved beyond normal biological limits by the crucible of the most dangerous planet known to galactic science, but they were also capable of choice, of cooperation, of being something more than just supremely efficient killers. The question was whether the galaxy would give them that chance. Zarath stared at the bioscanner's readouts for several long moments, weighing the magnitude of her decision. The data was undeniable, impossible, and terrifying in its implications. Yet the human standing before her showed no signs of aggression or deception. If anything, Jake Morrison displayed a calm patience that suggested complete confidence in her ability to make the right choice. "There's something else you need to know," Jake said quietly, apparently sensing her internal struggle. "I'm not exactly a typical human." Zarath's four eyes snapped to attention. If Jake wasn't representative of standard human capabilities, what did that mean for her assessment of the species? "I'm what my people call a ranger," Jake explained, noting her confusion. "We're humans who've been specifically trained and enhanced for deep space operations. Our government selected individuals who already possessed exceptional physical and mental capabilities and optimized them further." The scanner immediately detected changes in Jake's physiology as he spoke. Systems that had been operating at what she assumed was maximum efficiency suddenly increased their output. His already incredible cellular regeneration accelerated. His neural activity spiked to levels that should have caused seizures, but instead seemed to sharpen his focus. "Enhanced how?" Zarath asked, dreading the answer. "Genetic therapy to maximize our natural adaptations. Nanomedical systems to optimize cellular function. Neural conditioning to expand cognitive capabilities. And extensive training in everything from combat to diplomacy to scientific analysis." Jake's explanation was matter-of-fact, as if describing routine medical procedures rather than what amounted to the creation of super soldiers. Zarath realized that she wasn't just examining a human. She was studying one of their elite warriors, a being engineered to represent the absolute pinnacle of human potential. If this was what humanity could create when they focused their efforts, what were their military capabilities? "But even our rangers are still recognizably human," Jake continued, seemingly reading her thoughts again. "We don't replace our biology with technology like some species. We enhance what evolution already gave us. Every human has the potential for what you see in me. Rangers just represent that potential fully realized." The scanner confirmed his statement. Despite the enhancements, Jake's biological signatures remained purely organic. There were no cybernetic implants, no artificial organs, no technological substitutions. Everything extraordinary about him was the result of optimized human biology. "How many rangers does Earth have?" Zarath asked, though she suspected she might not want to know the answer. "That's classified," Jake replied with a slight smile that somehow managed to be both friendly and predatory. "But I can tell you that we represent a tiny fraction of humanity's population. Most humans live peaceful lives as farmers, artists, scientists, teachers, and engineers. We exist to protect them and to serve as ambassadors when they venture into the galaxy." Zarath accessed her neural implant's connection to the station's database, pulling up reports about human presence in galactic space. The records showed that humans had been quietly establishing trade relationships, conducting scientific research, and participating in cultural exchanges for months. They had been model galactic citizens, showing respect for other species and contributing valuable resources and knowledge. "Your people have been studying us as much as we've been studying you," Jake observed, somehow detecting her database access. "What have you learned about human behavior in galactic society?" Zarath reviewed the files. Human traders had proven honest and reliable. Human scientists had shared discoveries freely with the galactic community. Human artists had created works that bridged cultural gaps between species that had never found common ground before. Human diplomats had resolved conflicts that had persisted for centuries. You've been exemplary citizens, she admitted. There have been no conflicts, no violations of galactic law, no attempts to exploit other species. Because that's who we are, Jake said simply. Yes, we're capable of incredible violence when threatened. Yes, we're evolved killers when we need to be. But we're also capable of incredible compassion, creativity, and cooperation. We survived by learning when to fight and when to make allies. The scanner detected subtle changes in Jake's neurochemistry as he spoke about cooperation and alliance building. His brain released compounds associated with empathy and social bonding, confirming that his capacity for violence was balanced by an equally strong capacity for positive social interaction. The choice your species faces, Jake continued, is whether to see us as monsters to be feared or partners to be welcomed. If you choose fear, you'll create the very threat you're trying to prevent. If you choose partnership, you'll gain allies who will stand with you against any danger the universe can throw at us. Zarath understood the implicit warning in his words. Humanity was offering friendship, but they were prepared for war if friendship was rejected. They had entered galactic society not as supplicants seeking acceptance, but as equals offering cooperation. Dr. Zarath, Jake said, his voice becoming formal, I'm authorized to make you an offer on behalf of the Human Colonial Authority. The sudden shift to official diplomacy made Zarath's skin flush an even deeper crimson. She was witnessing first contact protocols from a species that had been secretly preparing for this moment for months. We would like to establish a formal medical exchange program between Earth and the Galactic Medical Council, Jake continued. Human medical knowledge could benefit the galaxy, and galactic medical knowledge could benefit humanity. But this can only happen if there's trust between our species. Zarath realized that this entire encounter had been carefully orchestrated. Jake's presence on the cargo ship, the pirate attack, his arrival at her medical facility, it had all been designed to create this moment. Humanity was making their formal introduction to galactic society through her, using her expertise and reputation to legitimize their presence. You planned this, she said, though it wasn't really an accusation. The level of strategic thinking required was actually impressive. We prepared for multiple scenarios, Jake admitted, but we hoped for this one. You're one of the galaxy's most respected xenobiologists. Your assessment of humanity will carry enormous weight with the Galactic Council. We wanted that assessment to be based on complete information rather than fear and speculation. The scanner showed that Jake's stress levels remained remarkably low despite the significance of the moment. He possessed the kind of calm confidence that came from thorough preparation and absolute certainty in his mission. What happens if I refuse your offer? Zarath asked. Then we'll find another way to prove our trustworthiness, Jake replied. We're not going away, Dr. Zarath. Humanity is part of the galaxy now, whether the other species like it or not. The only question is whether we're going to be friends or enemies. Zarath looked at the bioscanner's displays one more time, absorbing the full implications of what she had discovered. Humanity represented evolution beyond anything previously imagined, capability beyond current understanding, and potential beyond measure. They could be the galaxy's greatest blessing or its ultimate nightmare. The choice was hers to make. The weight of galactic history settled on Zarath's shoulders as she considered Jake's proposal. Her decision would ripple across thousands of worlds, affecting billions of lives and potentially determining whether humanity became the galaxy's greatest ally or its most dangerous enemy. I need to understand something, Zarath said carefully. If humans are as capable as my scans indicate, why seek our approval at all? Why not simply announce your presence and capabilities? Jake moved to the medical bay's viewport, gazing out at the stars beyond. The scanner continued monitoring him, showing that even this simple movement demonstrated perfect spatial awareness and efficiency of motion that spoke to training beyond anything in galactic records. Because we've learned from our own history, Jake replied, his voice carrying the weight of racial memory. On Earth, when technologically superior civilizations encountered less advanced ones, the results were usually catastrophic for the weaker society. We've seen what happens when fear and misunderstanding drive first contact situations. The scanner detected subtle changes in Jake's neurochemistry, indicating emotional responses to painful historical memories. Despite their physical superiority, humans carried psychological scars from their own species' past mistakes. We don't want to be conquerors. Jake continued. We want to be contributors, but we also won't allow ourselves to be conquered or contained. The galaxy can have us as partners or adversaries, but it cannot have us as subjects. Zarath accessed historical records through her neural implant, reviewing documented first contact scenarios throughout galactic history. The pattern was clear. When species with significant capability gaps encountered each other, the results ranged from cultural absorption to complete extinction. The stronger species almost always dominated the weaker, regardless of their initial intentions. But humanity is different, she observed. You're not encountering a weaker species. You're encountering an entire galactic civilization. Exactly, Jake said, turning back to face her. This is unprecedented. A single species with our capabilities meeting an established multi-species civilization. There's no historical precedent for this situation, which means we have the opportunity to create a new kind of relationship. The bioscanner revealed that Jake's brain was processing information at rates that strained the equipment's ability to monitor. He was simultaneously analyzing political implications, cultural factors, technological considerations, and strategic possibilities at speeds that made advanced computers seem slow. The Galactic Council has protocols for integrating new species, Zarath said. Standard procedures for evaluation, gradual integration, supervised development programs. All designed for species that need galactic assistance to reach minimum civilization standards, Jake replied. We don't need assistance, supervision, or development programs. We need recognition as equals and the freedom to contribute our unique capabilities to galactic society. Zarath realized that humanity's request was actually revolutionary. They weren't asking to join galactic civilization as junior members working their way up through established hierarchies. They were requesting immediate recognition as a major galactic power with the rights and responsibilities that entailed. Some species will see that as arrogance, she warned. And they'll be wrong, Jake said simply. It's not arrogance when you can back up your claims with capability. My presence here proves that humans can operate independently in galactic space. Our monitoring of galactic communications proves that we can access any information we need. Our peaceful interactions with other species prove that we can be trusted neighbors. The scanner showed Jake's stress indicators rising slightly, the first sign of emotional strain she had detected. Despite his superhuman capabilities, he was still dealing with the pressure of representing his entire species in this crucial moment. There's something else, Jake said, his voice becoming more personal. Humans have always been explorers. We've always looked to the horizon and wondered what lies beyond it. The galaxy represents the ultimate frontier for us, not a prize to be conquered, but a mystery to be explored. Zarath could see the truth of that statement in the bioscanner's readings. Jake's neural patterns showed genuine excitement when he spoke about exploration and discovery. Despite their warrior capabilities, humans possessed an almost childlike curiosity about the universe. We have so much to offer, Jake continued. Medical knowledge gained from surviving the impossible. Engineering solutions developed under extreme pressure. Scientific insights discovered through necessity. Art and culture forged in the crucible of a death world. We don't want to hoard these gifts. We want to share them. The scanner confirmed that Jake's emotional state was completely sincere. Every word he spoke was backed by genuine belief and conviction. This wasn't diplomatic manipulation. It was heartfelt truth from someone who genuinely wanted the best outcome for everyone involved. But sharing requires trust, Zarath said, and trust requires understanding. How can the galaxy trust a species whose capabilities we can't even comprehend? By starting small, Jake replied. Medical exchanges, as I mentioned, scientific collaborations, cultural programs. Let us prove our trustworthiness through actions rather than words. Give us the chance to demonstrate that we're more than just evolved predators. Zarath reviewed the bioscanner's complete analysis of Jake's biology. Every impossible adaptation, every superhuman capability, every evolutionary advantage that made humans into the ultimate survivors. Yet alongside all of that physical supremacy, the scanner had also detected creativity, empathy, loyalty, and an unshakable moral code. The medical exchange program, she said slowly. What exactly are you proposing? Jake's stress indicators immediately dropped as he sensed her interest. Human medical research has focused on healing trauma, regenerating damaged tissue, and optimizing biological function under extreme conditions. We've had to develop these capabilities to survive on Earth. We'd like to share that knowledge with the galactic medical community. And in exchange, we'd like access to galactic knowledge about treating non-human biology. Humans are going to be living and working alongside dozens of different species. We need to understand how to provide medical care for our alien friends and colleagues. The proposal was elegant in its simplicity. It offered genuine benefits to both sides while creating ongoing relationships that would build trust over time. It was exactly the kind of small step that could lead to larger cooperation. Dr. Zarath, Jake said formally, I'm asking you to recommend approval of this medical exchange program to the Galactic Council. I'm asking you to give humanity the chance to prove that we can be the galaxy's friends rather than its nightmare. Zarath looked at the bioscanner one final time, absorbing the full scope of what she had discovered. Humanity represented evolution beyond imagination, but they also represented hope for a future where strength served wisdom rather than dominating it. The choice was no longer difficult. The evidence was clear, the proposal was reasonable, and the potential benefits were enormous. She activated her communication array and began preparing her report to the Galactic Council, knowing that her words would change the course of galactic history. The age of humanity was about to begin. 3 standard galactic hours later, Zarath stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Medical Council. Her comprehensive report on human biology displayed on the chamber's massive holographic screens. The council members, representing 47 different species, studied the data with a mixture of fascination and growing alarm. Dr. Keth Mara, the council's Zenthari chairman, spoke first. His crystalline form reflected the chamber's lighting in patterns that indicated deep concern. Dr. Zarath, these readings appear to show biological capabilities that exceed our theoretical maximums for carbon-based life. Are you certain your equipment was functioning correctly? I ran the scans 3 times using different systems, Zarath replied, her skin still showing traces of the crimson flush that had marked her initial shock. I also had the human subject demonstrate several capabilities in controlled conditions. Every reading has been verified and cross-referenced. Counselor Vexani, representing the Aquatic Delphine Confederation, raised a concern that had been whispered in the corridors since the report's distribution. These capabilities suggest that humans could pose a significant threat to galactic security. A single individual with these physical specifications could potentially overpower entire security details. That concern has already been addressed, Zarath said, activating a new section of her presentation. Commander Morrison demonstrated complete voluntary control over his enhanced capabilities. He could have easily escaped our medical facility or overpowered our security at any time, but chose instead to cooperate fully with our examination. The holographic display showed Jake's bio-readings during various stress tests. Even when pushed to demonstrate his physical limits, his aggression indicators remained at baseline levels. His cortisol production stayed within normal ranges despite performing feats that should have triggered massive stress responses. More significantly, Zarath continued, the human specifically requested this examination and disclosure of his species' capabilities. This was not an accidental discovery. Humanity chose to reveal their true nature to us rather than attempt concealment or deception. Counselor Thanemore, a member of the silicon-based Resonance Collective, transmitted his concerns through harmonic frequencies. Why would they reveal capabilities that could cause fear among other species? What strategic advantage does transparency serve? According to Commander Morrison, humans have studied our historical records regarding first contact scenarios, Zarath explained. They believe that concealment would eventually lead to discovery and conflict, while transparency offers the possibility of genuine cooperation. The chamber's atmosphere grew heavy with tension as the implications sank in. If humans had been studying galactic history without revealing their presence, their intelligence capabilities were even more advanced than their biological specifications suggested. Dr. Zarath, Chairman Keth Mara said carefully, did the human make any specific requests or demands during your examination? He proposed a medical exchange program, Zarath replied, bringing up the formal proposal Jake had authorized her to present. Humanity offers to share their medical research and trauma treatment methodologies in exchange for access to galactic knowledge about non-human biology. The proposal appeared on the Council's displays in 47 different languages and communication formats. The scope was impressive, covering regenerative medicine, genetic therapy, battlefield trauma treatment, and biological optimization techniques that could benefit every species in the galaxy. Counselor Yathara of the Hive Mind Collective spoke through her drone representatives. This knowledge could revolutionize galactic medicine, but it also demonstrates that humans have already surpassed our medical capabilities significantly. What assurance do we have that they won't use this advantage to establish dominance? The same assurance we have for any species, Zarath replied. Ongoing cooperation, mutual benefit, and the understanding that conflict serves no one's interests. The human I examined showed genuine interest in forming positive relationships with other species. But you examined only one individual, pointed out Counselor Dracoth, of the warrior clans. How can we be certain that this human represents typical attitudes for his species? Zarath had anticipated this question. Commander Morrison identified himself as a ranger, meaning he represents an enhanced subset of humanity, trained specifically for contact with other species. However, Galactic Intelligence has been monitoring human activities for months without detecting any aggressive behaviors or territorial expansion. She activated another display showing human trading activities, cultural exchanges, and scientific collaborations throughout galactic space. Every interaction had been peaceful, productive, and mutually beneficial. The evidence suggests that while humans possess extraordinary individual capabilities, they use those capabilities responsibly, Zarath continued. Their behavior in galactic society has been exemplary. Chairman Kethamara's crystalline form shifted colors, indicating deep contemplation. The medical exchange program offers significant benefits, but approving it would set a precedent for recognizing humanity as equals, rather than subjects requiring supervision. Which is exactly what they're requesting, Zarath said. Humanity doesn't want to be managed or controlled. They want to be partners. The chamber fell silent as council members processed the implications. They were facing a species that didn't fit any existing categories or protocols. Humans were too advanced to be treated as developing primitives, too capable to be ignored, and too valuable as potential allies to be rejected. There is another consideration, Counselor Vexani said slowly. If we reject their proposal, what alternatives do we have? These beings are already present in galactic space and have demonstrated capabilities that make conventional containment impossible. The unspoken reality hung in the chamber's atmosphere. The galaxy couldn't force humanity into submission without risking a conflict that would be devastating for everyone involved. The only realistic choice was to find a way to work with them. The medical exchange program represents a minimal risk opportunity to establish formal relations, Zarath said. It allows us to evaluate human trustworthiness while gaining access to potentially revolutionary medical advances. Chairman Kethamara called for a preliminary vote. All those in favor of recommending approval of the Human Medical Exchange Program to the full Galactic Council? 38 of the 47 council members voted in favor. The remaining 9 abstained, but none voted against the proposal. Dr. Zarath, the chairman said formally, the Medical Council recommends approval of the Human Medical Exchange Program. Your report will be forwarded to the full Galactic Council with our endorsement. As the session concluded, Zarath realized that her encounter with Jake Morrison had changed more than just her understanding of human biology. It had opened the door to a new chapter in galactic history, one where humanity would play a central role in shaping the future of interstellar civilization. The galaxy was about to discover what it meant to have humanity as partners rather than strangers. For better or worse, the age of human integration had officially begun. 6 months after the Galactic Council's unanimous approval of the Human Medical Exchange Program, Zarath stood in the newly constructed Human Galactic Medical Research Center, orbiting the neutral world of Kepler Prime. The facility represented the most advanced medical research station in galactic history, combining human innovation with the best technologies from 47 different species. The transformation had been remarkable. What began as a simple exchange program had evolved into the galaxy's premier medical research initiative, with human researchers working alongside alien scientists to tackle diseases and injuries that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. Dr. Zarath, you need to see this, called Dr. Elena Vasquez, the human director of regenerative medicine. The young woman approached with data tablets. containing results that would have seemed impossible just months ago. We've successfully tested the human Xanthari hybrid healing matrix on subjects from 12 different species, Elena explained, her excitement evident despite the scientific formality of her presentation. Recovery times for severe trauma have been reduced by over 400%, and we're seeing tissue regeneration rates that approach human baseline levels. Zarath reviewed the data with amazement. The collaborative research had produced medical advances that neither species could have achieved alone. Human understanding of cellular regeneration, combined with Xanthari crystalline technology, had created healing systems that bordered on miraculous. The Delphine Confederation has requested permission to implement the new spinal injury protocols on their homeworld, Elena continued. Their aquatic environment creates unique trauma patterns, but the adapted human techniques are showing 98% recovery rates for previously permanent paralysis. The success stories kept mounting. Human trauma medicine had revolutionized treatment for species throughout the galaxy, while alien medical knowledge had helped humans understand how to optimize their own biological systems more effectively. The exchange had become truly mutual, with both sides contributing and benefiting equally. Dr. Zarath, came a familiar voice from the laboratory entrance. Jake Morrison entered, no longer wearing the simple civilian clothes from their first meeting. His new uniform bore the insignia of the Galactic Medical Council's Special Liaison Corps, a position created specifically to facilitate human-alien medical cooperation. Commander Morrison, Zarath replied, noting that her skin no longer flushed crimson in his presence. Familiarity had replaced fear, and she now saw the human ranger as a colleague rather than an impossible biological anomaly. I wanted to thank you personally, Jake said, approaching with the same fluid grace she remembered from their first encounter. Your report made this possible. You could have recommended caution and containment, but you chose trust and cooperation instead. The evidence supported that choice, Zarath replied, though she appreciated his acknowledgement. Your species has proven worthy of that trust many times over. The medical center around them buzzed with activity as researchers from dozens of species worked together on projects that would have been inconceivable before human integration. The collaboration had broken down barriers that had existed for centuries, creating new possibilities for galactic advancement. There's something else, Jake said, his tone becoming more serious. The Galactic Council has received formal requests from 7 different species asking for expanded cooperation programs with humanity. Trade agreements, technological exchanges, cultural programs, even military cooperation proposals. Zarath wasn't surprised. Human capabilities had proven valuable in every field they entered. Their unique perspective, developed through survival on a death world, offered solutions to problems that had stymied galactic civilization for generations. The warrior clans want human military advisors, Jake continued. The Silicon Collective is interested in human engineering techniques. The archive keepers want to study human information processing capabilities. Everyone wants to learn from us now. And how does humanity respond to these requests? Zarath asked, curious about the long-term implications. Carefully, Jake replied. We're honored by the interest, but we don't want to move too fast. Trust takes time to build, and we want to make sure each new relationship is based on mutual respect, rather than just desire for our capabilities. The wisdom in that approach impressed Zarath. Despite their overwhelming advantages, humans continued to prioritize long-term stability over short-term gains. They understood that sustainable relationships required genuine partnership rather than exploitation of superior capabilities. Dr. Vasquez, Jake called to the human researcher, could you show Dr. Zarath the latest development in the pediatric trauma program? Elena activated a holographic display showing treatment protocols specifically designed for young patients from various species. The results were extraordinary. Healing times reduced to days instead of months, scarring eliminated entirely, and recovery rates approaching 100% for previously life-threatening injuries. This is perhaps our greatest achievement, Elena explained. No child in galactic space needs to suffer permanent disability from injury anymore. We can heal almost anything, and we're constantly improving our techniques. Zarath studied the data with professional admiration. The hybrid medical technologies had achieved something that individual species had been working toward for millennia. Children from every corner of the galaxy could now receive treatment that would restore them to perfect health, regardless of their species' natural healing capabilities. The long-term implications are staggering, Zarath observed. We're looking at the first generation of galactic citizens who will grow up knowing that almost any injury can be completely healed. It changes everything, Jake agreed. Fear of permanent disability has influenced cultural development for every species. When that fear is removed, entire civilizations can evolve in new directions. The transformation extended beyond medical advances. Human integration had sparked a renaissance of cooperation throughout galactic society. Species that had maintained polite but distant relationships for centuries were now collaborating on projects they had never considered possible. Commander Morrison, Zarath said formally, I have a question that's been troubling me. Go ahead. Your species could have conquered the galaxy by now. Your capabilities would have made military domination relatively simple. Why choose cooperation instead? Jake smiled, the expression carrying warmth that the bioscanners had first detected months ago. Because conquest would have given us subjects, but cooperation has given us friends. We've learned more from working with other species than we ever could have learned from ruling them. The scanner readings from their first meeting had shown this truth in Jake's neurochemistry, but Zarath was only now beginning to understand its full implications. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their physical capabilities or technological prowess. It was their understanding that true power came from voluntary cooperation rather than forced submission. Besides, Jake added with a grin that reminded Zarath that humans retained their predatory aspects alongside their cooperative nature. This way is much more fun. As she looked around the bustling medical center, watching humans and aliens work together to heal the galaxy's wounds, Zarath realized that her initial fear had been completely misplaced. Humanity wasn't a threat to galactic civilization. They were its salvation, bringing capabilities and perspectives that elevated everyone they encountered. The age of humanity had indeed begun, but it was an age of partnership rather than dominance, and that made all the difference in the galaxy.